Buckle up, lads, as today's story is fast and loose, but don't take it from me, take it from the fact that the first scene is a ship pulling out a coffin from the ocean, and the fact after it, two men caught some bullets by a shady figure. The coffin had body in it, not a disgusting, decomposing body, but the body of a well-put Scandinavian hottie called Rye the Noblesse, who suddenly wakes up and leaves the place before the evil organization behind the shady figure could touch him. Rye goes to Yiran High School to meet his servant Frankenstein, who has now become the principal of this academy. Because if you are going to hide in Japan, where else to hide other than in a high school? Seeing Rye was not used to the technology of this era and also not a social butterfly, Frankenstein, after welcoming the return of his master, has him enrolled in the school as a student so that Rye can become familiar with this new world. And of course, looking at him, all the girls in the class went head over heels for him. Rye met Shinwoo, a straightforward guy with a strong physique. Shinwoo and his friends became accustomed to Rye. Meanwhile, the organization dispatched agents M21 and M24 to find the Noblesse and bring him to them. M21 and M24 were failed experiments of the organization. As such, they were treated like garbage, hence they decided to betray the organization and use the abilities of the Noblesse, without knowing what it is exactly, to free themselves from the chains of the organization. However, the powerful agents of the organization, Mary and Jake, caught them and decided to use them for a bit to pinpoint the location of the Noblesse using a zombie made by M24. While on their way home, Rye and his friend hear the screams of a woman. When they went to save her, they got attacked by a zombie, but Shinwoo managed to protect them. The agents decided to kill Rye and his friends as they witnessed the crimes and operation of the organization unintentionally. The agents kidnapped Rye's friends and took them to a hidden facility. Here, Jake tortured Shinwoo and beat him up badly. They messaged the principal of the academy to lure Rye out. Despite being injured heavily, Shinwoo struggled to protect his friends. Upon seeing this, M24 got flashbacks of his days at the experiment facility when his friend sacrificed his life to save the life of M24. Driven by his past regrets, M24 attacked Jake despite knowing he would be killed in an instant. M24 exploded himself to protect the children. Unfortunately, this moment didn't affect the psycho as he was still standing strong. Frankenstein and Rye eventually reached the facility where Mary and M21 were fighting. Rye orders Frankenstein to fight Mary so that he could focus on saving his friends. Frankenstein dominated the battle in the beginning, but Mary revealed her true form and began to fight back, so Rye ordered Frankenstein to release his seal and fight in full power. Now unleashed, Frankenstein kills Mary in an instant. That said, the real showdown was Rye vs Jake. And oh boy, what a show of power that was, as Rye used his mind control technique and ordered the mongrel to kneel before him, making Jake reveal his true form in fury and madness. The steroids man has been outclassed and outmatched heavily. Rye decides to finish the monster with his blood field technique, which created a bloody rainfall. In the end, Rye used his abilities to erase the memories of his friends to protect them from any future harm. See, we told you the events go fast, and they keep going fast as we see a special forces team known as the DA-5 killing off military combat units in an unknown location, before getting ready to set out to Japan for their next mission, being the investigation into the disappearance of two Union members. Meanwhile, Rye, the protector of the nobles, along with his loyal servant Frankenstein and former Union experiment M21, continue to spend their days at Yiran High School, all while keeping their true identities a secret. M21 has been assigned to be a security guard for the school to pay off his debts of living in Frankenstein's house. The same day, a violent gang barges on the school grounds looking for Hen Shinwoo, also known as Yuzuki Dashiro, a person involved in the incident with the Union members, one of which broke his arm. The gang is there for an unrelated incident in which Tashiro saved the gang leader's girlfriend from tripping, which made the gang leader insecure and angry. M21 decides to let go of his fear of being detected and effortlessly takes down the gang's leader, causing them to leave in a panic. Later that night, DA-5 arrives in Japan to begin their investigation. Meanwhile, two other unknown people gaze from a rooftop. They are Regis and Sarah, who arrive to investigate the incident around the events that occurred at the abandoned building, leading them to Yiran High School to interrogate Principal Frankenstein. Regis attempts to control Frankenstein, who recognizes this power to be similar to Raziel's. Regis dictates that they will be transfer students at the school, and Frankenstein plays along in an attempt to investigate them for Raziel. Tashiro is assigned to help them around the school. Frankenstein discovers that Tashiro has brought Regis and Sarah to his home because they informed him that they have nowhere to live. Raziel gives the okay to Frankenstein to accept them into his house. The next day, Regis confronts M21 after school regarding the whereabouts of the missing coffin, and they soon fight after mistrust ensues. Sarah informs Regis of an incident with Tashiro and the bullies, and they both stop the fight to go and try to help. When they arrive, Tashiro has already taken care of them, and everyone walks back home for the night. The next day, in the household of Frankenstein, and the boys are having a bit of a sibling rivalry over soup. It's so ridiculous that the new boy attempts mind control on old Frank to make him forget, as well as Rai, who he wonders if the mind control worked on. Later at night, we see Ekan facing off with DA Union hacker Tao, and even though the virtual fight was close, the battle came to an end when the clumsy redhead tripped over the power whir. Ekan stepped off to make a phone call, leaving his friend behind. So when Tao sent messages, he replied to them, giving him the impression that his innocent friend swings to the same team. On the other end, the DA squad has found out that M21, the security guard, is still alive. So they sent 2 guys to get him. When they reached him, the face-off was kind of peaceful, but it later became a bit aggressive when the DA men insulted M21's dead friend. Also, to make matters worse, the vamp kid arrived at the scene, and instead of physically helping our boy, he went on a roasting rampage, insulting the guy's drip. So of course, the budget-cut Joker didn't take it too nicely and went for an attack, which M21 blocks it with his body. Then DA Captain arrives and takes the Silver Fox before things needlessly escalate. Now captured by the DA squad, M21 notices that the squad doesn't know about his departure from the Union. The cool-headed gunman offers the lads some water, putting himself a bit on the normal side of the group. After sipping some refreshing water, M21 agrees to cooperate on the terms of him getting some info from the Union as well as food. Back in school, the kids notice the disappearance of their security guard, and they also notice their boy Reg is acting a bit weird lately. Hence, the kids invite themselves to the Principal Frank house to blow some steam. However, Ekan receives a message from Tao to meet IRL, thus he leaves his bro to do all the mundane chores. While talking with Sarah, the redhead comes across a couple of lackeys trying to pick on the wrong guy. On the other end, Ekan is having a peaceful coffee time with Tao, who expresses his interest in a 4-eyed deviant. Back to the alleyway, the redhead is getting thanked by the gunman for helping him. They later befriend each other, just like how the 4-eyed boy did with his new mentor. Fast forward, and the 2 DA men, Takeo and Tao, meet on the roof. Tao offers to look for Takeo's sister as she is being held hostage by the Union. Back to the M21 situation, he's still being questioned by the lunatic named Shark, so Takeo tells him to calm your tits, boy. That's when Shark tells him, remember all the women and kids we were supposed to kill, but you let live. Yeah, I killed them. Then he mentions the guy's sister. Enraged, Takeo pulls a gun on him and tells him to keep his sister name out of his mouth. The standoff gets cut and Shark heads out to grab the kids. Regis notices him from afar and goes to fight him. Turns out the boy can hold his own, so the lunatic powers up to stand a chance, yet the boy is still stronger. However, when it's revealed that his fat partner has captured the other kids, Rigi boy stands down and they take them to base. When Regis wakes up, he finds himself in a tricky situation. On the other side, Sarah tells Frankenstein and Ray that her connection with Regis has been severed, meaning he's either unconscious or dead, before leaving the only 2 dudes who are powerful enough to help. That said, Frank tells his master the other kids are not responding and that they also were with Regis. Soon after, the kids wake up and it leaves the other guys, M21, Takeo, and Tao, in a very awkward situation. It was so awkward that my social anxiety was acting up. Thankfully, the scene cut to busty Sarah, who is being followed by the present op characters in the series. Back in the safe house, the good dot boys try saving the kids by talking them out of their current situation, but the captain this time orders Shark to kill them as they ain't letting any loose ends. Sarah then arrives upstairs and engages in a fight with the fatty of the group, who is no match for her. Downstairs, the captain tells Takeo to go up and check on him, mainly because he doesn't want Takeo to witness the massacre downstairs. Can't say the same thing for M21, who is fighting within himself on what to do, save the kids or fulfill the promise to his dead comrades by finding out their names. Thankfully, the living gets priority this time and he stops Shark from killing the badass redhead. Outside, the man with the glorious long hair fights the man with the blonde hair, who seems to be caught by surprise by how strong his rival this time is. Meanwhile, the busty queen is still fighting with the fat man, while down under, M21 is fighting the man who likes to play with knives, which gave Regis a morale boost, enabling him to break his handcuffs and join the fight. As expected, he is far stronger than the lunatic, putting him on the robs, so the captain had to step in and power up. Yet the unexpected happened: the cap struck his underling in the back. Turns out the drugs the squad takes to enhance their powers were originally made for when the captain feels he can kill and absorb the drugs as well as power from his underlings. And now with all that juice, he throws Reg like a ragdoll. And that's when the big man arrives. Outside, the fight between Takeo and Frank hits another level when Frankenstein, powered up his sadistic side, came out to play, but Takeo's not going to die yet, not until he sees his sister. Meanwhile, Sarah has pulled out a death scythe and wrapped that fat ass. While back inside, everyone sees how powerful Rai is by outclassing Captain Douche via mere words, so the Cap orders Tao to use the drug to absorb it from him. And with no other option, Tao agrees, yet Ikon disagrees and asks Rai to save him. So we'll be back outside where Takeo is being put to the test. Sarah sees the overwhelming power from afar and rushes to the site just in time, saving Takeo after showing remorse over his actions. And with that aside, be back inside, where we see Tao has disobeyed the orders after the captain said he will kill the kids. When the captain goes to kill him, Rai saves the man and tells Ikan, "We are friends, no need to plead for me," before crushing the douche with his own blood in front of the eyes of the other nobles who are dumbfounded by Rai's sheer power. Later, we see Frankenstein worried about his master who coughed blood after unleashing so much power that put his body at risk. In turn, Rai also seems worried that Frankenstein has broken his power seal without permission. Yet he says knowing there must have been a good reason to do so. And just like that, we go to the dinner table where Tao is having the time of his life to then be joined by M21 and Takeo. After dinner, M21 contemplates whether being able to protect people or not. So Rai takes a drop of his blood and show him a glance at his inner potential to then tell him, "You are not weak at all, and you could save many people." Feeling somewhat satisfied, M21 head back to his room, passing by the guest's room, where he overheard Tao telling Takeo that his sister doesn't exist and that the Union manipulated his memory to make him work for them. After that, Tao tells him they should leave tomorrow, so they don't be a burden to the group. And as such, the next day, when the boys head to school, they find out that Tao and Takeo are now working alongside M21, which depresses our redhead boy who sees all the girls flocking around them. But when Ik-han asks him what kind of girl you even like, he makes it clear that he is into Sarah. So the boys head to ask the men about love advice, yet they too are clueless. But when Rai also wishes to know, they have no other choice but to play along, and by God, it was cringy as fuck. Even brought Loverman number 3 to his knees. Seeing it hopeless, they head to old Frank for advice, and a piece of advice they don't get, as Uncle Frank was only flexing his love adventures. So instead, they head to the source and ask Reedies about Sarah's preferences. Of course, the shorty doesn't seem interested to help, but when Rai says, "Tell them, boy," he kneels and they go to the library to study the matters of the heart, which proves to be hard. Sarah hands Loverboy the letter he was trying to write earlier, as someone has put it on her desk. She tells him seeking love is natural and being oneself is charming. Although she doesn't give a yes or no answer, it seems she doesn't mind it, and they go with each other to the house. Turns out the group was waiting for them and discussing whether they erase their memories or not. The boys don't like it, but it must be done, and just like that, the cycle continues. This time, the nobles visited Tokyo. The visitor is called Gejudal, the leader of the clan Reedies belongs to. Surprisingly, Frankenstein seems to have a history with the dude. We'd also learn above that dude is another noble with the title Lord. She is the one who sent him there, and from the looks, she is aware of Rai's presence. Back in Japan, Rai is having a cup of tea with his visitor. The old man informs him what is the situation in the land of nobles being, that the previous lord entered eternal sleep after Rai disappeared from the land. Eternal sleep is equivalent to death with nobles, so the lord daughter took over as the new lord, and since then she has been looking for Rai, considering him as a traitor that led the previous lord to sleep. Then we got the backstory of Frankenstein. Turns out he was known as the noble hunter in old times, as he used to catch and slaughter dem nobles for dinner. Then we learned that even way back then, Rai was antisocial, refusing to stay with his kind and choosing to be alone. Cutting to a scene when Gejudal and Rajak faced Frankenstein. The fight was decent till it got better when Mad Frank pulled a soul weapon just as powerful as the one the clan leaders use. It was a close and intense fight until Frankenstein lost control over his power, causing an explosion. Frankenstein ended up stumbling into the mansion of no other than Razel. Frank claimed he was a new servant and that the lord of the mansion forgot to say he hired him. Funny enough, he doesn't know that he was talking to the lord of the mansion. The two clan leaders arrive at the crypt and ask to bring Frankenstein back with them. However, seeing Frank was injured, Razel refused to hand him off, and so he sent the leaders back to their lord. Yet after all that time, the nobles still hate Frank's presence and dislike Rai for his actions towards him, and from what the head lord said towards other humans, as Rai puts humans first before his fellow noblesse, maintaining the balance between the two kinds. Then the lord asks Frankenstein on whether he formed a pact with Razel or not, saying it will longer his lifespan. After that, Frank leaves and the rest of the nobles enter the lord room, and let me tell you, they are not happy from what they heard. Well, one at least seems very pissed. So when old man Gejudal sees Frank, he tells him, don't do anything stupid, considering Razel is risking his life. Frank is surprised by that, yet he gets baited into fighting the guy who was pissed from earlier, who was jealous of Rai's relationship with Frank, and although Frank didn't mind being talked down, he got angry when the guy said Razel is better off being alone, sending him to Madness Town. Razel and the other lord arrive and kick ass faction, saving the men. Rai then brings Frank back to his senses by using immense power that makes him cough blood. Realizing he has put his body on the line, Frankenstein goes through the blood pact with Rai and they become a one. Later, Gejudal leaves and tries to hide the truth from the lord, so she orders someone to bring Sarah back to read her mind. That someone is an annoying little child who is now in Japan, and from the looks of it, he has no manners, pulling mind tricks, attacking the trio security guard, and pulling hands on little Regis before leaving Sarah with some nasty words. Soon later, Sarah talked with Regis before leaving him to go and see the little brat. Rai senses it, but Frankenstein stops him, saying, "If you go, they will be aware of your presence and they might come for you." So Rai lifts the power seal on Frank so he can go and save Sarah instead of him. Frankenstein went to show the boy why they used to call him the Noble Hunter. And let me tell you, the moment he let loose, the little brat didn't have a chance, yet he tried not to get too frisky or the city would get destroyed. So to prevent any further destruction, Reg and Sarah joined the fight, stopping the little brat. With no other option, he pulled the Lord command to retrieve Sarah. As such, she went with him without putting a fight. As such, the trio Regis, Frankenstein, and Rai decide to head off back to the land of nobles. Sarah gets questioned by the Lord, but she doesn't speak, so the Lord put her under mind pressure. Seeing her in agony, the leaders begged the Lord to be easy on her, so she let her in a cell. Meanwhile, aboard a private jet, the trio reached the land of nobles, and although the setup was classy, the descent was not, as the trio jumped from the plane to make it seem as if a random plane entered the land by mistake and crashed. Something helped when the word reached the leader. The trio makes their way to what Regis calls the Forbidden Area, which turns out to be Razel's house. When they enter, Rai and Frank sense something weird in the air. After looking around, they found out that the old lord has left his soul weapon Ragnarok in Rai's house. Outside, Reg went to dispatch soldiers who were tracking their footsteps. He was doing all right until they outnumbered him and got his mask blown away. Luckily, the rest of the gang arrived and helped a brother out, now calling themselves RK4. Frankenstein and Rai explained the situation to the group, as well as somewhat explained Rai's nature being the Noblesse, not a noble. The Noblesse originally is not a title for a group, but a title for one person who stands above all. And along those lines, we saw a flashback of Rai chit-chatting with the previous lord, who was glad that Rai is starting to express his emotions more and lets people in. He also asked if Rai wants to be the new lord, but before he answers, the flashback cuts to the modern time, where the new lord, after being informed of what has inspired, orders Gedril to be put to sleep. However, when the rest of the leaders object, she says fine and leaves. During a flashback of her own, we find out the reason for her deep hatred for Rai. It was because she overheard her father asking Razel if he wants to be lord, thinking he prefers him more than her. That jealousy led her to Gedril's cell, where she asked him once and for all, "Who did you meet in Japan?" The old man confesses but says, "Do not be mistaken. It's not because I fear for my life I spoke. Now do your duty and punish this criminal." And so the Lord ordered Gedril to be put to sleep once again. Meanwhile, M21 and Regis are trying to create an opening for the two main men to get into the Lord's castle without trouble. They get cut by the little blonde brat, so M21 tells him to go while he and the other two fight the blondie. And they do manage to outsmart him at first, but he proves to be way strong to fall easily. Meanwhile, inside the castle, Sarah has broken from her cell to go and save Gedril, but gets stopped by BH, who claims to be Sarah's big sister figure. Same goes to Regis, who is fighting his big brother figure. Yet unlike the redheaded chick, the man told Reg to leave until things get cleared. But Regis refused, as he wants to walk the proper path of noble, the one his grandpa Gedril told him. Back to the main fight, the trio got defeated by the little brat, and before he kills them, his big brother arrived and stopped him. Then Big Uncle Frankenstein arrived, and he let him know he is not playing any games, this time revealing he has fought the previous head of their clan countless times. The current head shows respect and summons his soul weapon. In turn, Frankenstein summons the Dark Spear. The fight is glorious, the two seem tied 2 on 2, but you can feel that Frank has the slight upper hand. Well, we and the trio who are cheering him on to the point that annoyed the little brat, making him attack them. So Frank protected them and risked taking a shot from his foe. However, his foe is chivalrous, when he injured himself and scolded his brother for his actions. Seeing this, Frankenstein compliments him and tells him, "I see why the head of your clan chose you to succeed him." On the other end, Regis loses his match, but he does so honorably. While inside the castle, the Lord is trying to be intimidating, saying, "I will put you to sleep, Sarah, as well as Gedril, and Rai will get it too." But Gedril sees beyond all that and tells her, "You can put me. And for Sarah, I know you don't want to," as she didn't commit any crime really. While for Rai, we all know it's impossible, especially with Frankenstein by his side, the only human who was powerful enough to kill a clan leader and to be acknowledged by the previous lord before the scene shifted back to the fight, showing that Frank has the upper hand. So his little brother tells him to take his soul weapon and combine it with his, but the ninja uniform declines, as their weapons were handed down by their father, the previous clan leader, and they remain the same way they received them. Once again, Frankenstein compliments him, saying his father would be proud, also revealing that their father was the one who trained him and taught him to master using his soul weapon. Back inside the castle, Gedril spells the T on why the Lord hates Razel so much, revealing to everyone in the court that she is just a jealous little girl and that he accepts his fate, not because he betrayed her, but because he failed in raising her into a noble worthy of the title Lord. With that being said, he accepts his fate, and the lady goes to deliver the device's strike that when the man, the myth, the legend, the original Noblesse enters the room. However, his epic entrance, though, was not met by applause, but with fear by the young clan leader, who attacked him on the spot. They all tried to slow down the man of the hour, but their attacks were merely pushed aside and deflected. So the big boss had to step down and face him herself. And although she didn't put off a good fight at first, seeing her people standing up to defend her against the grim Louds lit a fire in her soul and helped her to cast her ultimate move, Blood Coffin, to fight Rai's Blood Coffin move. The forces of the moves nullified each other, and the people behind the move fell due to the move's energy toll on the body. Admitting defeat, the Lord bowed her head waiting for her fate, while Rai whipped out Ragnarok, but instead of striking her down, the sword glowed and flew with the Lord's sword, revealing the old Lord's image. It's his last thoughts that he managed to compress into the sword before passing in that image. He explains that he took his own life after a conversation with a smart-ass human whom we know. And it wasn't because the convo was cringe, but because he realized that humans use their limited lifespan to improve themselves and become stronger as a species. So he came to the conclusion, in order to build a better future, he needed to step down, and since they can live forever, he had to put himself to sleep. And after telling the clan leader who he trusted the most about the plan, they also stepped forward and joined him in the sleep. All except Gedril, who the Lord asked to stay behind to ensure their future, and not let the new generation stray away from the noble's path. Hearing all this, the girl gets overwhelmed and falls down to Gedril crying, realizing how much he cared for her and her success. So she releases him, as well as Sarah, from their bind, and then her father Image apologies for not telling her what he was thinking, and that he loved her so much he couldn't bring himself to tell her about the plan because seeing her cry would make him back out. After finishing the message, the two swords unite as winds, signifying that she is now on the right path. Fast forward a bit, and the gang is all healed up and ready to go back home. Everyone likes everyone again, especially the Lord, who seems much happier. When talking to Rai, asking him what he thinks about her father, he tells her he was a good father. And with that, the gang gets back to Japan to the school to continue the normal mundane life they grew to love. The end. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more.